Well, hello, friends. It's me, Jinx, your favorite Christmas elf. I'm so excited to be back here with all of you. Earlier this year, Santa let me travel to Iceland, a country not too far from the North Pole, to learn about some of their Christmas traditions. And boy, do I have an interesting tale to tell you about. For the 13 days before Christmas, the old troll Grilla sends one of her 13 sons to visit the children in Iceland. The children leave out their shoes each night in hopes that the Yule lad will leave them a present, if they've been good. If they were naughty, though, the lad might leave them a potato. The Yule lads often cause some sort of mischief each night. One likes to slam doors. Another likes to bother the animals around the house. One lad likes to steal candles. And another likes to lick the spoons in the kitchen. Can you imagine waking up and finding all of the spoons in your house scattered around the kitchen? And then you have to clean them all over again. Well, the story I want to share is about Grilla and her sons and what happened one cold day in the mountains of Iceland 14 days before Christmas. Or A Fortnight Before Christmas by Brian Pilkington. On a crisp and bright winter's day, Grilla was out collecting firewood. She was going to build a fire to cook a big pot of stew for her boys. They hadn't eaten for many weeks now and had started to complain. They needed to build up their strength for their long and exciting Christmas adventures. She had already collected a large bunch of twigs and branches when she spotted a curiously shaped piece of wood sticking out of the snow. Grilla tugged at it a little, but it was stuck. So she put down her bundle and pulled harder. Still, it would not move. But she was determined and would not give up. She bent her knees, took a good strong grip with both hands, and before pulling, she counted. 1, 2, 3. Grilla is not very bright and can't actually count any higher. With one final mighty effort in an explosion of snow, it, whatever it was, came free.
What in the name of Odin is that?
She exclaimed out loud, to nobody in particular. She stood up, dusted the snow off herself, and walked around it a few times. But she was still baffled by what she had discovered. She really had no idea what it was. Again, thinking is not one of Grilla's strong points. She really isn't very bright. Standing behind it, she pushed it with her foot. It moved.
That's strange,
she thought. Eventually, she sat down on it and rocked it back and forth. She was a little surprised to find it starting to creep slowly forward, towards the top of a long downwards incline. Soon the slope became steeper, and she started moving faster and faster and faster until she was hurtling downwards at a frantic speed. At first she was shocked, but her shrieks of fear rapidly became shouts of delight as she realized that she was actually really rather enjoying herself.
That was
she said in a very loud, croaky voice as she eventually slowed down and came to a stop.
Again! Let's do it again!
She squawked. Grilla stood up and turned the thing around to face the hill, and then sat back down.
Go!
She instructed in a loud voice. But nothing happened.
Up the hill!
She commanded even louder, and pointed upwards so there could be no misunderstanding. But still it would not move. She tapped it on both sides with her heels and shouted,
Giddy up!
But still it stubbornly refused to move. Eventually she climbed off, found a large stick, and hit it angrily several times. This, of course, had no effect.
Must be broken,
she grumbled. She looked around and spotted Stufr, one of her 13 sons. He was moping about some distance away, doing nothing in particular. Grilla called to him to come and help her fix it. Stufr, who was a bit smarter than his mother, explained that it wasn't broken, but that it needed to be pushed up the hill. He immediately realized that this was a big mistake, as Grilla promptly instructed him to push her to the very top of an enormous hill. Poor Stuffer did his best. He huffed and puffed until he was red in the face, but the weight of Grilla and the thing meant that they did not move even a tiny bit. He was of course clever enough to realize that it would be a lot easier if Grilla would just get off the thing and help with the pushing, but he wasn't brave enough to suggest that to her. Stuffer desperately needed help, so he told Grilla that he had earlier seen Giljagaur and Stekjastor on the other side of the hill building the snowman. He suggested that he go and fetch them to help with the pushing. Grilla thought this was a good idea.
1, 2, 3 suns, she said, counting on her fingers. That should be enough to get it to move.
Giljagaur and Stekjastor are both big, strong boys, but even they and Stuffer together could not shift Grilla and the thing by more than a couple of steps. But none of them had the courage to ask their dear sweet mother to get off and walk up the hill. So Stuffer was sent to their cave to wake up the rest of the lazy brothers and get them to come and help. They were not at all pleased to be forced out of their nice warm beds and out into the freezing cold to do hard work. But none of them had it in them to disobey their mother. With all of them working together as a team, they eventually managed to get Grilla to the top of the long steep hill, where they took great delight in giving their old mum a good hard shove off the top. If you were to ask Grilla how many times she raced down the hill, she would of course tell you 3. But it was a lot more than that. She went down again and 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 again. In fact, all afternoon until she became rather tired and quite bored. So she very kindly let her boys have a go. They were polite, well-brought-up boys and took it in turns to whiz down the hill. They used the opportunity to try as many different methods as possible. Eventually, the sun had sunk very low in the sky, and everyone was tired and hungry and rather cold. They all worked together to collect a huge pile of firewood, and then used the whizzy thing, which is what they were now calling it, to transport all the wood back to their cave. They soon had a big fire roaring under the cooking pot. The boys all sat around it, contentedly enjoying the warmth of the fire. Grilla was in a particularly inventive mood, and decided to put Lepaluthi's old socks in the stew for added flavor, and to give them their yearly clean at the same time. Grilla tries her hardest, but really is not a very good cook. Stekjastor could hardly contain his excitement ahead of his Christmas adventure the following morning, the first of all the brothers. He really looked forward to visiting all of the good boys and girls of Iceland. He had a long and difficult trek over the mountains ahead of him. But the thought of all the delicious snacks that the children would leave out for him on their windowsills made the thought of the tough journey, and the smell of the stinky stew, a bit more bearable. The end. That was a fun story. Although I'm curious, did you hear any doors slam or pets making some noises in the middle of the night over the last 13 days? Maybe Grilla let one of the Yule lads come all the way to your house. I just hope you didn't find any potatoes lying around. And can you imagine eating some of Grilla's stew, especially if Lepaluthi's socks were soaking in it? I heard she also puts toenail clippings, earwax, and even dandruff in her stew. Would you want to try that? I don't think I could. But I did try something that warmed me up. It's a drink that the Vikings would drink called glögg, and you can make it yourself. Here's how. Here's what you'll need: apple juice, cranberry and pomegranate juice, cinnamon sticks, cloves, honey, and a stovetop or a crock pot. Begin by pouring the apple juice into your pot, followed by the cranberry pomegranate juice. It's roughly a 2-to-1 ratio, but the goal is to give the mixture a reddish tint. Then, drizzle a little bit of honey. For the spices, place cinnamon sticks and some cloves into a pouch and place it in the pot. The cinnamon sticks can be placed directly in the pot if you prefer. Put the lid on the crock pot and turn it on high. If you're using a stove, place your pot on the stove and heat it up on medium. You don't want it to boil. Let it warm for 20 to 30 minutes. Then, carefully ladle it into a mug and share this Viking drink with your friends and family. It's like Christmas in a cup. You know what? You could play a trick on your family or friends just like one of the Yule lads and tell them you are having some of Greela's stew. But I would love to see photos of you and your family making and drinking glögg. Be sure to have a grown-up tag me on Instagram at Jinx the Christmas Elf and at Marco Island Art. And speaking of Marco Island Art, I'd like to give a huge thank you to the Marco Island Center for the Arts for letting me share another story with you. Be on the lookout later this spring for a list of all the fine arts and performing arts classes you can take throughout the summer. Well, I need to be getting back to the North Pole. Who knows what adventure Santa will let me go on in the coming year so I can come back and tell you all about another fun Christmas tradition from somewhere around the world. Until then, Merry Christmas, and I hope you have a Happy New Year. And double check to make sure your spoons are all clean before eating your Christmas dinner. See you soon!